Okay, today I'm going to show you how to apply a vinyl decal or medium-sized vinyl decal to a back window of a vehicle. Typically, the medium-sized or larger-sized vinyl decals are shipped in a rolled form like this. So what you want to do is you want to unroll the decal first and lay it down flat on a table or something, and use something like a squeegee or a credit card or something plastic like this, and rub the transfer sheet so that you can make sure that it's actually grabbing onto the vinyl decal that's underneath. And the reason you're doing this is because over time, heat and this kind of stuff can cause the transfer sheet to release the vinyl decal, and when you go to lift it off of the paper, it may stay behind. Not a big deal if it does. You can just push it back down and lift it back up, but this just assures that you're going to have a more successful transfer. Also, in this case, I'm using a matte vinyl decal. And matte vinyl decals have, you can imagine on the surface, they have a lot of pores and a lot of bumps and stuff. And so the transfer sheet tends to stick to them less. So in the heat, it'll release it easier. So again, just rub out from the center. Don't push, because if you push, the edge of your credit card or whatever you're using can catch the decal even through the transfer sheet and cause a curl or something. So rub from the center out and just make sure that it's completely adhered. You can push a little bit harder when you're pulling. Again, don't push, pull, and just make sure that it's all the way down. So now we're going to move on to the vehicle, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, now we're at the vehicle, and I'm going to show you step 2. Now, by the way, I'm doing this in the sun, which is not preferred. I'm doing this in the sun only because of lighting, so that we can get a better video. But the reason you don't want to do this in the sun is because the vinyl decal and the transfer plastic that's on top of it contract and expand at different rates. And so if you lay it out in the sun, it can actually start to release again. If it does, go back inside to the table, go back to step 1, and make sure that it's flat and it's actually grabbing. But normally it won't be a problem, and it typically is not an issue anyways if you're not using a matte decal. But purposely, I'm using a matte decal because it's the tougher one to deal with. Okay, first step is prepping the window. I'm not going to show you how to clean a window, but you do want to clean it with a non-ammonia based cleaner. In this case, I use Sprayway. There's a lot of other cleaners, but typically standard Windex will have ammonia in it, and you don't want to use that because the ammonia will attack the adhesive that's on the vinyl decal. If you happen to use something like a Windex with ammonia in it, go back and maybe clean it with alcohol or Sprayway or something like that. Secondly, I've put a blue tape here as a reference line for me, only for the purpose of this video, to make it go a little faster. You don't actually need to do that, but you will need to, align your decal and measure it and this kind of stuff. So first step is I'm going to take a long piece of blue tape here, and I'll just put it to the side here, and I'm going to use my reference line and just kind of line up my decal right with that line there, about where I want it. Then I'm going to use the hinge method. So I'm going to apply this tape that I just took right down the middle, just like this, and that'll lock in its place. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to do one half and the other. If you take the whole thing off and put it on there, the vinyl decal itself is very sticky, and you'll probably ruin it if it catches an edge and you try to pull it back up. Okay, next, again, I'm going to one more time, since it's on a flat surface, just push out any air bubbles that might have started to come in. Not that the air bubbles are going to be under the decal, but I just want to make sure that it grabs onto the decal well. So once I've done that, by the way, this is a nice squeegee. It has a felt tip on it. It'll allow you to push because it doesn't have a hard edge like the plastic one I showed you earlier. And these are available on the webpage also, TurboDecal.com. Anyways, I'm just going to make sure it's nice and tight on there. And then I'm going to lift the transfer sheet and pay attention to make sure that the decal is actually releasing, and go slow. Make sure everything comes up. If it doesn't, again, go back and push down, like right there, it's not coming up. So I'm going to push a little bit. You can use your finger, use your squeegee or whatever it is you're using. And just make sure that it's actually releasing all the way. The idea here is to get it all transferred onto the transfer sheet. And once you've got it onto the transfer sheet, we no longer need the paper. So we cut the paper away. And then we're going to not allow it to touch the window, hold it out, and then slowly work it onto the window evenly, letting the squeegee or your credit card or whatever you happen to be doing do the pulling to the window. That way you can push out any air that might be trapped. Okay, now that we've got that on there, I can remove my masking tape. I don't need this one either anymore. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And again, since this is so hot out here, it's already starting to want to release. So just going to make sure it's nice and tight. And typically this is not an issue, as I mentioned, on a non-matte vinyl decal. The matte ones, I'm purposely using matte one because it's the trouble baby. Okay, so I've released that, and I'm going to just do the exact same thing here now from the other side and slowly work the decal onto the window. By the way, this matte looks really good on the tinted windows because it's kind of subtle. You'll see what it looks like in a second here once I expose the actual decal. Okay, now that we've got the vinyl decal on, we no longer care if it's going to release from the transfer sheet by sitting out here. But what I do want is I want to make sure that the vinyl decal itself is adhering to the window well. By the way, I told you earlier not to push. The only reason I'm pushing is because I'm using the felt type squeegee. If I was using something like a credit card, here's a credit card, I would not want to push. I would want to pull from the center out and just make sure that's on there. Once it's on there, grab the transfer sheet, and now at a sharp angle, slowly start to peel it away, and the vinyl decal should stay behind, as you see is happening here. If it doesn't, you want to go reverse your process and push down again, because we want to make sure it's all on there. Go slow. You don't need to go fast on this. And sometimes what works well is if you kind of rock back and forth like this. Look at that. That's beautiful. Just keep going. Again, this is releasing well, but if for some reason it wasn't, go back and push that section down and continue on. You shouldn't get any air bubbles, but if you do, don't sweat it, especially smaller ones. Vinyl is actually porous, and the air will escape after 1 or 2 days, especially in the sun. And what looks like a little tiny bubble now will be basically nothing in a few days. Okay, there we are. Brand new vinyl decal on the back of an F-250. This one happens to be a 2016 F-250. We have them in all different sizes, and we can customize them for other vehicles if you have a different window size.